Lauded by some as Manchester United's best player and a world-class midfield operator, criticised by others as just not doing enough over the past few years, today we are talking Paul Pogba, always a controversial topic, and what is his legacy at Manchester United, and what does his future hold with Manchester United. Don't forget, as always, before we get started, to smash a like on the video, share the content around, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and subscribe to our socials as well. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Going back to 2011, when Sir Alex Ferguson was still manager of Manchester United, Ferguson stated that Pogba had to be given opportunities within the first team if they were to convince him to sign a new contract. His contract, of course, was due to expire in the summer of 2012. Over the course of the 2011-12 season, Pogba played only 7 times in all competitions and didn't make his Premier League debut until the 31st of January 2012, by which time, as Ferguson's comments are to be taken as true, he had already agreed a move to Juventus and he had already switched off from United. Pogba then, of course, signed a contract with Juventus in the summer of 2012, and he immediately became an integral player with the Italian side. Pogba played in a slightly free role on the left side of a midfield three in a 5-3-2. He had world-class centre-backs behind him in the shape of Andrea Barzagli, Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci. As well as that, he had experienced wing-backs in Stefan Lichtsteiner on the right-hand side, but more importantly in Patrice Evra on the left-hand side, who provided him with a huge outlet and also cover going back, allowing Pogba to play an expansive box-to-box playmaking role. Beside him in midfield, he had the likes of Andrea Pirlo sitting deep, always protecting the back four, despite his qualities being as a deep-lying playmaker. Pirlo was an excellent tackler and read the game very, very well, and really provided a good platform for Pogba to be able to play a more expansive role further forward. Also in midfield, he had hard-working, industrial players like Arturo Vidal and Claudio Marchisio, and in front of him, he had top quality strikers in Carlos Tevez and Fernando Llorente to link up with higher up the pitch. As well as the 4 Serie A's that he won in each of his 4 seasons with Juventus, he won 2 Coppa Italias in his final 2 seasons, and in total he scored 34 goals in 178 games in all competitions, becoming known as a world-class creative centre midfielder and cementing himself with the French squad as well, going on to finish as a runner-up in Euro 2016. He then, of course, transferred to Manchester United that summer in a move that was worth £89.3 million at the time, making him the 3rd most expensive player of all time and Manchester United's all-time record signing. This move was orchestrated by his highly controversial agent Mino Raiola, and what Raiola does with his clients, he is not only seeking to maximize the money coming in for himself and for the signing on fee and wage for his players, but he's trying to maximize their brand as well and create the most high profile deals possible to keep his clients relevant. And no deal is more emblematic than this of the transfer of Pogba back to Manchester United, the club whose ranks he came through as a teenager, for a club record fee of almost £90 million. Huge, huge news. But this added perhaps unrealistic levels of expectations for Pogba. When you go for that amount of money, when you're in the news that much, when there's such a saga to the transfer, when there's that element of romanticism about the transfer, going back to the club you came through, it just adds a whole other level of expectations. However, this wasn't the only expectation on Pogba. Because of the levels that he had shown for France and for Juventus in the previous 4 years, there was an expectation that Paul Pogba would lead United back to great things, back to domestic success in the Premier League and to success in Europe in the Champions League. Things started reasonably well. Under Jose Mourinho, Pogba, as mentioned before, expectations were high on his return to Old Trafford, and it's fair to say that Pogba hasn't lived up to the hype in his second spell at Manchester United. His relationship with manager Jose Mourinho was frosty at best, and ultimately he's failed to deliver what he was brought there to do, and that was to bring them back to the levels that were set under Sir Alex Ferguson of challenging and ultimately winning the Premier League and competing in the Champions League as well. And unfortunately for Manchester United and for Paul Pogba, that just hasn't happened. But I think it's important now to take a look at what type of player Paul Pogba actually is, and in what situations does he actually play his best football. Pogba is at his best playing as a box-to-box playmaking midfielder on the left-hand side of a midfield 2 or 3, similarly enough to the position that Zinedine Zidane played for Real Madrid. Pogba is not the type of player to lead a team all by himself in the way that Cristiano Ronaldo does, in the way that Lionel Messi does, even in the way that Jamie Vardy does for Leicester City. Pogba is a player who excels when the team is carefully constructed around him, very similarly to Mesut Ozil at Arsenal, and similarly to Ozil, who was of course lauded as a world-class talent for Real Madrid and for Germany, and played his best football for both of those sides who built the team around him, or in a way that he was able to play his best football. Similarly with Pogba, that just hasn't happened at Manchester United. I've already previously discussed how Juventus set up between 2012 and 2016 to get the best out of Pogba, so let's now take a look at France, and in particular focus on their World Cup success in 2018. In defence, France had Benjamin Pavard at right back and Lucas Hernandez at left back. Pavard is of course a natural centre back, but he's also quick, and he was very good at getting forward for France in that World Cup, similarly to Lucas Hernandez at left back. In the centre, they had Samuel Umtiti and Raphael Varane. At their peak, 2 world-class defenders. Of course, Umtiti has fallen off a little bit in recent years due to injury, but certainly at that time, 2 top quality centre backs. Beside him in midfield, he had N'Golo Kante, one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, and a player that allows someone like Pogba to really play his best football. But I don't think that it was Kante who was the most important pick in that side. Now, ahead of Pogba, they had Griezmann playing just in behind Olivier Giroud, Kylian Mbappe on the right-hand side, but the player I want to focus on most of all, Blaise Matuidi, playing at left wing. Now, Matuidi is of course naturally a hard-working, industrious, yet technically gifted central midfielder. But what he allowed Pogba to do was to play in a free role. Matuidi covered so much ground in that World Cup on that left-hand side. France had players in a more attacking, natural fit for the left wing role in the mould of Nabil Fekir and Ousmane Dembele, but they opted for Blaise Matuidi, and as a substitute for Matuidi when he began to tire, Corentin Tolisso, likewise a hard-working, industrious, yet technically gifted central midfielder. And the selection of these 2 players at left wing was crucial to allowing Pogba to get forward, to get into positions that he wouldn't be able to have gotten into or gotten away with getting into had they played a more creative player on the left-hand side of midfield, and ultimately allowing Pogba to have a magnificent tournament, culminating in a fantastic performance in the final against Croatia, where he scored a great goal in the second half and contributed hugely to France's success in that World Cup. Manchester United have not been able to get the best out of Paul Pogba because they have never constructed a team that suits his style of play. Let's take a look at some of the players that he has been playing with over the past 4 years. In defence, we have the likes of Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Marcos Rojo, Matteo Darmian, Eric Bailly, Daley Blind, Victor Lindelof, more recently Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw. Recently, United have just signed Alex Telles, and I think that he can allow Pogba to play better, and he will suit Pogba's style of play. But those defenders that I've just mentioned, in terms of the centre backs, they're just not great players. And Luke Shaw is a sedentary left back. He does not bomb up and down the left hand side. He's a decent defender, but he doesn't get up and down in the way that Patrice ever did, in the way that Lucas Hernandez did, and he doesn't allow Pogba to excel for those reasons. In midfield, Pogba has had to make do with the likes of Ander Herrera, who perhaps is the one standout defensive-minded midfield player that I'm going to mention, Marouane Fellaini, Nemanja Matic, Fred, Scott McTominay, and Jesse Lingard, although Jesse Lingard plays a little bit further forward, of course. But those players are just not of the quality to allow Pogba to best succeed. A lot of United fans rate Fred. He's decent. Is he as good as N'Golo Kante or Claudio Marchisio at his peak, or Andrea Pirlo? Absolutely not. Nemanja Matic was great for Chelsea. Ever since he joined United, his levels have dropped off a cliff. He is not the same player that he once was, and he hasn't been since he signed for Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes and Donny van de Beek are excellent footballers, but the lack of a quality defensive midfielder at Manchester United is massively holding Paul Pogba back. Further forward for Manchester United, Anthony Martial, Alexis Sanchez and Romelu Lukaku have been wildly inconsistent. Martial, of course, looked better last season. However, there are question marks about his ability to be consistent as a number 9, and he often drifts in and out of games. Pogba needs players who give their all for 90 minutes, week in, week out. Can there be a happy ending for Pogba and United? I'm not so sure. United recently triggered an extension in his contract to see him through to the end of the 2021-22 season, and they'll of course have a big decision to make at the end of the current season. Real Madrid are long-term admirers, and for sure Mino Raiola will be wanting to get the best deal for himself, the best deal for Paul Pogba, and the most high-profile deal possible. Is that a new contract with Manchester United? I'm not so sure. I think that that's probably a move to Real Madrid. Real Madrid obviously didn't spend any money during the coronavirus pandemic. They're saving their money up for the end of the current season, and I think they could go big for Pogba. But for now, what can United do to get the best out of Paul Pogba? For starters, this is perhaps an unrealistic aim. They need to coach their defenders better. Bailly and Lindelof, although inconsistent with form and in Bailly's case injury, are highly rated, decent players. Harry Maguire was good for Leicester. He has been good for England. He's in shocking form. They need to find a way to get the best out of these centre backs. As I mentioned previously, playing Telles at left back will have a positive effect on Pogba. Wan-Bissaka at right back is a decent player. They don't need to worry about him too much. But in midfield and in attack, it's where the decisions are trickier. I think that the best midfield and attack options for Pogba are in a 4-3-1-2, playing Cavani and Rashford up front, Bruno Fernandes in behind, and then Pogba in a box-to-box playmaking role on the left-hand side of a midfield 3, with one of McTominay, Fred or Matic sitting, and then Donny van de Beek is the right central midfielder. However, this formation was tried against Arsenal, and despite Arsenal only playing 2 central midfielders, Manchester United were overrun in midfield, and I think Solskjaer might think twice before using this formation again. He'll likely go back to a 4-2-3-1, but there are issues with a 4-2-3-1. Pogba excels playing on the left-hand side of a midfield 2 or 3. That's just where he plays well, so that's where he's going to play. However, if you're going to play a right-footed midfielder beside him, that's going to be Donny van de Beek, and he's or Scott McTominay, and Van de Beek is too forward-thinking a player to allow Pogba to play his best football. McTominay is not that good. He's just levels below what's needed to get the best out of Pogba. So then you're looking at Matic and Fred, and they're both left-footed, so that eliminates the natural passing range for passing avenues for a right-sided central midfielder. So these are some hiccups that Solskjaer has to think about, and they're important decisions to make, and it's difficult because the squad is not set up to get the best out of Pogba. The players are not at a level to those at Juventus and for France in which it gives Pogba a really good opportunity to play his best football. Pogba has become an easy target for the brutal English football press, again similarly to Mesut Ozil. Both have shown themselves to be world-class operators when on top form, but have failed to live up to expectations because the teams that they're playing in England have not been set up to get the best out of them. Expectations are so high for these players because they've shown themselves to be so good for other clubs and for their countries. And their respective clubs' inability to get the best out of them means that it's an impossible task to be expected to play at peak level. Expectations are huge for Pogba because everyone knows how good he is. And unfortunately, this looks like it has all the hallmarks of a sad ending for all parties, despite best intentions. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Don't forget to smash a like on the video, share the content around, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and subscribe to our social media pages as well. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Pogba has been a hit at United? What could they have done to have got the best out of him? Is it an impossible task? Is the relationship now beyond repair? Will he move to Real Madrid or another top club in the summer? Will he sign a new contract with Manchester United? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Cheers.